Hi, we're going to run through a short series of videos on how to program PLCs. We're going to have some HMI work in here as well and some real life applications. We'll run through some Connected Components Workbench stuff on the Micro 800 series, and then we'll move on to some of the MicroLogix stuff that we've got here as well. So we'll be working in RS Logix 500 for the Micro 1400, and we'll be working in Connected Components Workbench for the Micro 800 series. Eventually, we'll probably have an 850 in here as well, but for right now, we're going to be working on the Allen Bradley 2080 LC20 20QWB. That's our little 24 volt PLC. And as you can see, I've got it all wired up here in a process. What we're going to be doing is simulating a 4 to 20 in from a transmitter off our process meter. We're going to run it through a panel meter here so you can see a percentage, let's say level, and back into our PLC. This is an 820, has optional analog inputs. They're configurable in the software. We'll go through that, and we use resistors to convert voltage to current, as all of the analog ins and outs on this particular controller are also voltage. They're all voltage. We've got right here, we've got our serial connections for this controller, and then these are slots for plug-in modules. If you have them, you can get analogs and true current analogs and thermocouples and other things like that, high-speed counter cards and whatnot. So yeah, we're just going to simulate a level on the 420. We're going to turn a relay on, and we'll go through a series of programming. So we'll get into the software. So here we are in Connected Components Workbench. We are going to start a new project here. So simply open up New under the Project tab, and we are going to name it. Naming everything is important, including naming the controller. We will go through and we are going to name this one Level Test. Okay, we're going to create that. And then you'll see a pop-up box here. That took longer than usual, but here we are. On the left-hand side here, you're going to see the controllers, drives, or VFDs, motor starters, safety components, and graphic terminals. So this software actually lets you program panel view 800s, which is kind of a nifty trick that it does all in one environment, which is pretty cool. And you can work on the PowerFlex series of drives that are compatible with this software, which is also pretty cool if you're doing an application with a drive. Under controllers, we've got our Micro 810 all the way through 870. Keep in mind the Micro 830 here has been discontinued. We won't be doing any work on that. They've removed it from the series. So right now we've got a Micro 820, and as we said, we have a 20QWB. So we're going to add that to our project. Okay, the version is almost always going to be the latest version as what you want. We're going to select that, and we are going to add it to the project. It's going to think about this for a minute. It's going to build our new project. We have a few things that we are going to do first before we get into the actual programming in the next video. Okay, so here we've got your basic home screen for Connected Component Workbench. We have our controller organizer over here on the left-hand side, which shows you all of your programs in here and your variables, and also data arrays. We'll get into that well down the road. This window right here shows you the actual controller itself. You can hide that or not. One of the cool things about the CCW software, when you do see this little picture here, we're going to add a module to it. You can fire that module in there, and it actually pops it up with the wiring schematic of the controller. So we don't have one in there, so we're going to obviously delete that one, but it is kind of a nifty function. It does that for all the PLC lines. So if you're adding cards, the cards will pop up here to the left of the processor. So in here, we go to general. We always name these so that we can see them in artist links. So we want to call this one level test. A couple things we're going to do. We're going to go to the Ethernet tab here. They automatically enable DHCP, Dynamic Host Communication Protocol. We want to get rid of that. We don't ever want to have this thing fetching its own address. We want to give it an address. So here, 192.168. My computer is configured for a 1 in this slot, and that's the one. This one right here is the one that has to match, be on the same network. So when we set up your laptop, which we'll do just in a second, and I'll show you, that number has to match, and the address you put in here has to be, and the last has to be different. Okay, so we're going to say this is 245. The default subnet mask is always going to be 255, 255, 2550, and that is fine. So we're going to save that. Okay, and the last thing you're going to need to do here, if you're going to use the Modbus or the serial ports that we talked about earlier, by default, these are configured for a little remote LCD that you can buy. We don't want that. Okay, so we'll uncheck that box, and that means that if we end up going to use that the Modbus, excuse me, the serial port, we can actually set this thing up for Modbus RTU. Okay, that's about all we're going to cover on the actual controller, and the last thing to figure out here is your network configuration. So we're going to go to control panel, we're going to go to network and internet, and this is fairly standard. We're going to go through and change the settings so that our Ethernet, so we change adapter settings, we go to our Ethernet, double click on that, and then we go down to properties. Under here, you're going to see the Internet Protocol version 4 TCP IP. So we go into here, the properties. Now, as you can see, I have configured this one as 192.168.1.110. So it's different than my controller. And that's the only thing that matters. That little 1, which is the network, and subnet are the same. Okay, so we're going to close all this. That's where you'd find that. You can do a quick search in your search bar to find all these settings in Windows. I'm using Windows 11. It's the same for all of them. So we go back here to our Ethernet, and we see that our address is set for 245, and we're going to need that in the subsequent video. So that gets you going, opening it up, and next we'll talk about connecting and programming.